Welcome to Dose of Social, your recipe for social media success. I'm Lindsay Mauk.
I'm Kayla Pearlstein.
And this is
Dose of
Social. I feel like anyone who's not watching the video version of this podcast is going to be like, what just happened?
I wanted to be like, Wheel Fortune.
Dose of Social. All right. Okay, so Kayla, it's Friday. Woot woot. But you're going to listen to this on whatever day of the week it is. But
probably a Wednesday.
or whenever we schedule this episode.
I see what you did there.
So today's episode is another Lindsay Kayla episode. We're going to talk about something that I think is really relevant to social media managers and a big question mark for a lot of business and brand business owners and brands who are not sure if this is something they should even do. So we're going to talk about it today and let you know all about scheduling tools.
Yay.
Or nay.
I'm in the middle.
So Kayla, let's talk about scheduling tools, and I can start by giving like a brief overview. And for those of you listening, you're going to be like, yeah, I know, Lindsay, that's pretty basic. But essentially, scheduling tools are just that. They allow you to plan out your social media content in advance, so you're not always just posting in real time, and you have a chance to plan out your captions and your calendar and build out content ahead of time. Scheduling tools are great for pre-scheduling your content and having your schedule ahead of time, like 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And I think a nice thing about scheduling tools as well is that you can use your content to publish on multiple platforms. So it's something where you can use one native tool and you can say, okay, I'm going to post this on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, or wherever it is. Now, there are certain limitations within scheduling tools on specific platforms, which we can get into in a minute. But for the most part, that's a really big plus. Back in the day, we used to call this the Pope.
Really?
Post once, publish everywhere.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
You heard it here on Dose of Social.
So, Lindsay, are there any downsides to relying too heavily on scheduling?
Oh, definitely. So while scheduling content is great for planning and organization and efficiency and getting ahead, there can also be some big downsides. So an example of that is remembering to push pause when something's happening in the world. So let's say there's a current event, something happens, tragedy occurs. You want to remember to be mindful of that and not be posting on social media. It can come across as very tone deaf if you have a scheduled post at 2 p.m. the day something tragic happens in the world. So making sure that you're pushing pause in those moments, and if you do have something scheduled, to take it off schedule, at least for the time being. So I think that's a big downside. But if you are at the point in your social media game where you are scheduling content, you're probably savvy enough at this point to remember to push pause as well. So I don't think that's as much of a downside. But if you are scheduling because you're going to be offline, for example, like maybe you're going on a vacation, which you absolutely should take and you deserve, making sure that you have someone on call who can take care of your scheduling of social media content in the event that something happens, right? So just making sure that you're covered on all fronts there.
I don't know if you remember this or if this was something you might have brought up in one of your classes, but there was a time some brand, it was like McDonald's or somebody had, so some people will create content, like we create content in Google Sheets, and then we'll get into how we upload all of our content, but some people put it into scheduling tools to send to the client to approve. So some brand had put in a placeholder and it said like insert post here, or it said something, and it went up and it went viral. And I don't know if it was like a an oopsie on the social media manager's part or if they did that on purpose, but it was kind of funny to see.
Yeah, so that was McDonald's, and that was from my class because that was an example that I shared
Good
back in the
memory.
day. And it happens. We're social media managers. We're human. Okay. Yes, AI is evolving in very rapidly and becoming a large part of how we handle our workload. But at the end of the day, we are human and typos and accidents happen. So yeah, like that could totally happen. And yeah, I mean, I would not pre-schedule anything that wasn't fully baked and approved and ready to go. But that is another downside now that you mention it is if you are working on social media for a brand that has many layers of approval and you're putting in your content calendar and you're scheduling everything, don't schedule it until it's fully baked and approved. Make sure that you keep it in draft mode
Mhm.
because that could be potentially dangerous for the brand if something like that were to happen.
Yeah. Do you currently have a favorite scheduling tool?
I do not. So, full disclosure, I don't use any scheduling tools for my own content, for Lindsay Mauk or for LTM Digital. I use the native scheduling tools within the platforms, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we do use scheduling tools for LTM. So, the two tools that we use are Planoly for Instagram and Buffer. And Buffer is like an OG social media tool.
Yeah.
Hats off to Buffer. Love Buffer. So we use that for scheduling our organic social media content, but we also are using the schedulers native to the tools as well.
Yeah, okay, so don't come for me in the comments. I have my own love-hate relationship with scheduling tools. I don't like them. I think there's a lot of for me, with the things that I need in order to make sure things are off my plate, they're not all the bases aren't covered. So, to your point, we use the back end of platforms to natively schedule when needed, or it is posted manually. With personal LinkedIn accounts, we've been using Buffer just to avoid constantly logging into that person's profile multiple times. But yeah, there's interesting world of scheduling tools and I mean, there's so many of them to choose
Yes.
from.
So when we were talking about this episode, Kayla sent me her spreadsheet of all the scheduling tools, and there's a lot. Yes, it's impressive. So, looking at this scheduling tool, it's like, wow, it's overwhelming. There's so many choices and different price points, and like, what do you need? Because technically, posting on social media in its very most basic form is free, right?
Yeah.
So, any of these platforms that you're looking at, you could be looking at something that's a free platform to $5 a month to several hundred thousands of dollars per month if you're an enterprise company, right? So the budget varies pretty drastically, and I think a lot of it depends on what you're doing and how many people are using it too, right?
Yeah, I think Sprout Social's been one of the best ones I've used, and that's been through another client that we were working with. It was their platform that we were scheduling on, and I really liked it. They also paid for more analytics, so the reporting was fantastic. But there's just still things with scheduling tools that they haven't quite figured out yet. So obviously adding trending music to reels usually has to be done natively. We've also had issues with scheduling tools where, and this is something you should keep in mind, if you are using a scheduling tool, do not set it and forget it and do not post and ghost because more times than you can imagine, there's been issues using a scheduling tool and a post going up and having an issue, and then your manager didn't check it, and there you go. So, make sure even if you are using a scheduling tool to still double check that things are going up correctly. But yeah, we post a lot of things manually just because we don't have access to the certain tools within that scheduling tool that we need.
Yeah, I think there's a greater room for error, right? When you're using a scheduling tool versus just posting natively within the platform. And I think part of that is because all of these platforms are different platforms. They are not owned by the same company, right? It's very seamless to post from Instagram to Facebook, right? Well, that's because Instagram and Facebook are owned by Meta, right? So it's very easy to seamlessly post across those 2. Then you can share to Threads, which is also a Meta property. But then you've got platforms like X and YouTube and TikTok, and now you have Blue Sky, and who knows what else is gonna pop up here, and obviously I haven't even mentioned LinkedIn, but there's a lot of platforms, right? So it's very hard, like, and I think of it from, like, the software development perspective of, like, crap, like, that's a lot of different, like, APIs and back end work that has to happen to make it make sense, and then everybody, like, to your point, Kayla, has different needs on the social media side, so it's like,
Mhm.
how do you, like, you're not cheese, you can't please everyone, and even when you are pleasing most people, there's still people who are lactose intolerant and don't like
I
cheese,
was gonna say,
so
did you say you're not cheese? That's funny.
I mean, I love cheese. I mean,
Well, so some scheduling tools, like an issue we run into, for example, I've been on scheduling tools where you can link your Instagram directly, and I've worked with some scheduling tools where you have to link your Facebook account to get access to your Instagram account. But what happens if you don't have a Facebook and you just have an Instagram? We have a client who just has an Instagram account. So a lot of those wouldn't work for her. So if you are interested in using a scheduling tool, I highly suggest you look into every single tool, the pros and cons, the cost of them, depending on your budget. I know you brought up LinkedIn, and I think we might have talked about this on a previous episode, but for personal LinkedIn pages, most scheduling tools won't help you. There's a out of the whole list I sent you, Lindsay, I think about half of them can schedule to personal pages. There, I think, is one of them that can respond to comments and incoming messages, and that platform alone was 15K a year.
and then you have to balance that against, is it worth it, right?
Yeah.
Is the investment in a scheduling tool that can do that worth the investment? And that's really only up to you to decide, right? So, but I think in most cases it probably doesn't make sense from a business perspective.
Is there a tool that you think is overrated or doesn't live up to the hype?
So another thing that I will share about these scheduling tools is they all have a sales process, right? Like any business. And so when you fill out an inquiry form, and especially if they think that you're going to spend a good amount of money with their software, they're going to schedule a demo with you. And within that demo, you are going to get to see all the bells and whistles. They're going to take you for a test drive, do a screen share, show you how it works, show you how you schedule, show you how you connect the platform, show you the analytics capabilities, users, content libraries, all the things, right? And then it's going to be up to you to decide whether or not it's something that is useful for you. And I've evaluated a lot of different scheduling tools in my day, both for the brands that I work with and for myself as a social media professional. And I will say that there are some that I don't think are that great. And I have to say, like Agora Pulse and Hey Orca, I heard amazing things about. My friends in the social media space were like, you have to check these out. They're so great. And we love it. And we use it. And my agency, like, couldn't work function without Agora Pulse. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I got a demo and I was like, you know, eh. But I will say that the one that I've been most impressed with that I'm not using currently is Sprout Social. So we did have a client that was on Sprout Social. It is a significant investment. I believe the client that we were working with was spending almost over $300 a month on their membership for Sprout Social. And it had a lot of capabilities and functionality, but then again, at the end of the day, they didn't really need all that. They probably could have saved that money and invested it elsewhere, in the social media space because they weren't really taking advantage of all the tools and capabilities within the software.
Yeah. No, Sprout Social, like I said before, is definitely a great tool, but is one of the most expensive ones that I've used.
Yeah, and going back to ones that I think are great, and obviously I'm biased because we use this at LTM Digital, but I love Planoly. Like, I love Planoly because you can map out your Instagram feed and you can get a sense of what it's gonna look like based on the content that you have. So sometimes we'll make aesthetic choices, and it's a lot easier now with the majority of Instagram content being reels, and you can go in and upload a different thumbnail after the fact, but and to match your aesthetic, but it is nice to be able to see everything all in one view before it goes live.
Yeah, I mean, on a cost-effective way to do that, we've done that in Google Sheets, and we've
Yep.
just created our feed within there to see what it looked like.
Totally, and that works too, and I think that's just a really good point too, Kayla, is, like, you don't need all these fancy scheduling tools. You can use what you have. You can use the scheduling tool within Instagram. I mean, you can schedule within Instagram too.
Mhm.
And you can also use a Google Sheet to map out your content. You don't have to put something fancy together in Planoly or Hey Orca or Agora Posts.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another doozy. So I know that a lot of times, and this to me is not as relevant to social media in 2025 as it was like back in the day. But posting time used to be a thing, right? Of like, oh, we want to post at every day at 5 p.m. because that's when our audience is online and engaged. But now we're really at the mercy of the algorithm and whenever it decides to do its thing and surface content to our audience, right? So
Mhm.
how important is it, Kayla, do you think, to post at optimal times in a scheduling tool versus posting natively like whenever you normally do?
I personally think it's not necessarily as important to post at optimal times. I don't wanna say I get annoyed, but I always see these things online where it says the best time to post on Facebook is this time or between this time and this time, but that might not necessarily be true for your brand or business and your audience. I'm very big on testing. So for example, if you're bringing in a new social media manager and you're so used to posting at 6 p.m. Central Time, maybe switch it up and post at different times for a couple of months just to see when your posts perform the best. I have seen posts on LinkedIn do tend to perform a little bit better earlier, so we've been doing that. Everything else, it just kind of ranges. I don't necessarily go off of the times on the back end of the platform of Instagram, for example, when it says your followers are seeing your content at this time, because half of the time when you post a reel, you're being shown to more non followers than followers. So does that time make sense? Should you test it? I say test it. What do you think?
I think it's always good. I mean, look, testing is great, and I'm a big believer in testing content and testing your marketing strategies in all sorts of different ways. Time of day, I just don't feel like it's as relevant anymore. I mean, when I used to teach my social media class, I'd always say, like, go bit in your back end, look at your insights, look and see what time your audience is most active, right? And so a lot of times, this was pre COVID, we would find that audiences were most active in the beginning of the day, like around 8 a.m., and then after 6 p.m. Now, I feel like it's just consistent all day long, right? I mean, a lot of people are working remote or they're commuting and they're not driving and they're looking at their phones and they're active on social media at all times of the day. So I don't really think that's as relevant anymore. And then again, the content surfaces at any given time. I mean, I'm seeing a lot in my feed right now in Facebook. Like I'll see something and I'm like, wait, that was posted 5 days ago. Like, why
Yeah.
am I seeing that now?
It's all to your point. It's the algorithm. The more that people are commenting or liking something, it's just getting served up more. You can have a Facebook post on a Dose of Social episode that you posted 2 weeks ago. And if someone goes and comments on it, it serves it back up for everyone else to see. And then you start to get more comments on it. So, yeah, I think find a time that seems to work and maybe test a couple of different ones. But I wouldn't necessarily go off of what you're seeing other people are saying as the best time to post.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always think that the beginning of the day is a good time to post because
Yeah.
it's like someone wakes up, they're going to check their feed, they're going to see the content that you've posted. And again, I think between like 6 to 9 p.m., I think people are also active on these platforms, so maybe you'll catch them there, but again, I think you're going to catch that first wave of people that see it because they happen to be online at that time. And then you're going to see that second wave whenever the content starts to surface and engagement happens. So really, I think posting time doesn't matter as much as engaging with the content as it comes in. So, like to your point of like, okay, we launched a podcast episode and someone commented and then you commented back and then 2 weeks later now we're seeing that get some more airtime again. I think that it's important to make sure that if someone is commenting or liking your content, respond to it right away. Publicly respond to the comment, like the comment, because that fuels the algorithm and that's going to help you be seen more. So it's not necessarily saying, okay, it's so important for me to schedule my content every day at 4 p.m. But it's like, okay, if I know my content is going live at 4 p.m., I need to be online at 4 p.m. to engage with people that might interact with it first thing. Like you said earlier in this episode, don't post and ghost, right?
They also had said, which this kind of makes sense with what we've been talking about, but there were some brands that they'd get comments on posts and they would wait 24 hours to respond because it would then serve it back up into the algorithm. So, I mean, we've never done that because we respond to things as quickly as possible. But, um, I mean, every now and then, like you might miss a comment. When you go back and respond to it, it just serves that post back up and you start to get all these other likes and comments on the post.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I could see from a big brand perspective where maybe someone comments something and it's not something that you can respond to right away. It's something that you have to send the response for approval from anywhere from 1 to 10 different people, right? Depending on how many layers of, red tape you have at your company.
Hmm.
But and so that I think does cause delays, but I do think if there are things that you can get back to quickly, it is good to do. Like for example, I work with an outerwear brand. And if someone has questions on sizing or fit or whatever, we want to make sure that we get back to them quickly. And the reason for that is they're probably in buying mode. And we wanna make sure that if they're in buying mode and they're asking us these questions, that we get back to them right away. And I know that the downside of this is it creates this, like, always on social media culture, but
Hmm.
when you are focused on conversion and driving those sales, like, if you can create that experience for your customer or your audience to get back to them quickly and they're like, "Oh, this was great. I just asked them, they got back to me quickly. It wasn't a bot, it was a person." It's a good experience.
Okay, so now there's the theory that's been out there that if you use a scheduling tool or a third party app to schedule your content, it doesn't get as much reach as it would if you post manually or schedule natively. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there is some truth to that. I couldn't give you, like, hard data on, like, yeah, it is, but I have personally seen that content posted through a scheduling tool does not perform as well as content that we're posting natively through the app itself. Is that the content? Is it the fact that we're engaged and online at the actual time? I don't know, I think there could be several different factors, but if you do wanna give your content the best shot at performing well, then I would say post in real time natively. Would you
Yeah.
agree, Kayla?
Yeah, I mean, the platforms want you to stay on the platform as long as you can. But I've seen different things. I've seen where scheduling through a third party app can hurt your reach. I've heard that that's not true. We don't really use scheduling tools and we haven't in a while, so I can't speak on if I've seen anything because we do everything from the back end of platforms.
I can tell you that it's probably equal or less than. I've never seen a scheduled post perform better
Mm,
necessarily because it was scheduled. I don't think I've ever actually seen that use case.
interesting. And then how far in advance do you recommend scheduling out posts?
Oh, good question. I mean, typically for us at LTM Digital with our organic social media clients, we're making sure that we have all the content approved and ready to go at least 2 weeks ahead of time. So what that means is like if today is the first of the month, we already have all the content ready to go for the next 2 weeks. It's already been approved and we're working on the 15th through the 30th. And in some cases, we can work up to a month ahead. I think it's really hard these days just with how fast everything moves to get that far ahead. But if you can get that far ahead, kudos to you because that's awesome. So I would say like 2 to 3 weeks, but it doesn't even have to be that much. Maybe it's just every Monday morning you sit down with a cup of coffee and you schedule your posts for the week. And then you make that a weekly ritual for your brand where you're posting weekly. And then that way you're getting your content up. And look, like if you need a scheduling tool to get you to post on social media, then use a scheduling tool because it's better to use a scheduling tool and post than to not use one and not post at all.
Yeah. I think Facebook only lets you schedule out so far ahead with a certain amount of
Yeah,
posts.
I think they do. Yeah, and that makes sense because like how far ahead do you want to go, really?
Yeah.
And how far is like realistic and like wise, a good use of your time too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So lots to think about for scheduling tools. I mean, I think that it's definitely a very personal decision based on how you use and interact with social media in your daily workflow, really.
Yep.
Awesome. So to wrap this up, so it sounds like we're both in agreement that scheduling tools like, yeah, they're good. There's a couple that we're both using for our businesses, but overall, probably not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, the back end of every social media platform has their own scheduling tool, so take advantage of it. It's free.
Yeah, look at Meta Creator Studio, go in your Instagram, look at how to schedule posts. You can do it on X now, even though I still call it
LinkedIn,
Twitter,
TikTok,
LinkedIn.
YouTube.
Yeah, schedule all the things
Yeah. And don't post and ghost.
and don't post and ghost. All right. Well, if you have any questions on scheduling tools, you know where to find us, doseofsocial.com and Dose of Social on Instagram and YouTube. All right. Thanks for listening to Dose of Social. We're out.